EA Interviews, episode 153.
Inspiration, transformation, success stories, and the Imperfect Action Round. 7 days a week. Join Mario Ficini for today's Expert Authority Effect interview.
It is a great day to be alive, and I am excited to bring to you author, speaker, TEDx speaker, Google speaker, and strategist at Executive Cat Herder, Maresa Friedman, and she's going to be sharing with you the importance of branding and business growth strategies. I'm going to bring her up right after we thank our sponsor.
How would you like to grow your wealth easier than you think with the change you probably don't notice anyhow automatically? That's why I started the Compounding Interest Snowball investing with Acorns and advise you do too. Get started simply and easily today at eainterviews.com/acorns.
Here she is, ladies and gentlemen, Maresa Friedman. How are you doing, Maresa?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing today?
I'm feeling great. I'm excited to have you on.
Oh, thanks so much. I'm super happy to be here.
You are just like a wealth of knowledge and fun, I must say. And I want to know, what is the story behind the story? Because it sounds like you liked your corporate job and didn't want to start a company, and then it changed. And for most people, we hated jobs in general, and that's why we started the company. So what was your perspective that you enjoyed it, and how did you do the switch?
I think the things I loved about being in corporate is really feeling that team environment, going to happy hour as a group, just that connection. The things that I didn't enjoy was obviously being a parent and wanting some part of like independence. It's just, I don't want to check in with anybody. I want to have some freedom and some flexibility, and to be a grown person asking to take a 30-minute break or a 15-minute break. It's just not where I wanted to be. And also, respect is a huge thing for me. So sometimes when we feel disrespected, it leads to poor performance. And I thought, well, I have two options. I can sit here and complain and whine, or I can just go out in the world and do it. And I chose to go out and do it. And that's kind of my story pretty quickly. But I loved being an employee. I did not enjoy the checking in, though, component of it. I don't like being micromanaged. I don't think anyone does.
I was going to say, I don't think anyone does, but I want to dive into what you just said, because you said it so quick and succinctly, and I appreciate it, but it was just a matter of you could have whined and complained, but you didn't. And there are so many people that can learn from that.
Right.
Explain to me the mentality behind, I didn't want to just play the victim and just deal with it, live with it, accept it, whatever. What was the burning desire that made you want to actually change it? You had mentioned being a mother.
Yeah, I think being a mom, and quite frankly, I want to say every year around International Women's Day, female empowerment is at an all-time high. And we have a lot of reasons for why we're not successful. People tend to love to blame men or the glass ceiling or male domination. And I kind of look at all that stuff as like an excuse, right? So as an adult, we have excuses or reasons why we don't do something. So maybe instead of saying, hey, we didn't get a promotion or a raise because we didn't have a great ask, we say, oh, we didn't get it because we're not friends with the boss, or I'm a woman, or I'm a Latina and a minority and I'm not. So I try to get out of excuses and into execution. My parents were in Amway in the 80s, if anybody remembers Amway. And it was all about positive thinking, positive speaking. And so they drilled that stuff into me. It's like, you are in control of your circumstances. And that's such a great thing to hear as a kid. Like, you are in control of your feelings. Don't let feelings become facts, right? Like, you need to separate the two. And I think that's the biggest thing that I don't care if I'm working with a company or an individual. It's all about figuring out, like, what is the way forward and how do we execute? Because I don't want to whine. No one wants to be around a whiner. No one wants to be Debbie Downer. And you have choice. I think people forget that they have choice. And that's always an option. You can choose to go off and do it on your own, or you can choose to make it work, but you're not allowed to whine about it. No whining.
Yeah, but what if it doesn't work?
You know what? The great news is you can always go back to a job. Maybe not that job there, right? There's tons of different ways for you to make money, but the worst thing that can happen is you have to go back into a 9 to 5 until you figure it out. A 9 to 5 can be a temporary state. And trust me, it's a lot easier to launch a business when you have recurring income coming in. There's a lot of hours in the day. For me, I get up around 4:30 in the morning. So I'm up early in the morning doing meetings with the East Coast. I do the mom thing, taking kids to school. Then I'm working. Then I'm back home. I mean, there's a ton of time that we're not using appropriately. So I just think, again, you can be into your obstacles or you can be into your opportunities. And it's really two different mindsets that you have a choice every day to start with. That's how I see it.
I've got a whole lot more questions, but I kind of just want to let you roll because your mindset is awesome. And I know it starts with that. And even right before we went live, what did we say? Oh, the show must go on. And it was surreal because I had just posted something about the show must go on no matter what. And there was like a double and triple meaning to it. So I want to ask you, with this impeccable mindset that you have, how has it helped you over the years, whether you were in the career or starting your business? Because I know no matter what it is, I've never liked jobs personally. I started my first company at 12, but there's a lot of people who do, and there's certain careers that you need it. But you can be successful in anything. You can also fail very easily in anything. So how did it help you in both of them to move forward and be as successful as you are now?
I think, something I picked up on as a kid, I don't know if you had a parent that made breakfast for you in the morning. I did. And so I was fascinated with Teflon pans when I was a kid because I'd like to watch the eggs sliding around in the pan and it would just slide out. And I remember my dad coming home once with a cheap pan and my mom said, "This isn't going to work. It's not Teflon. The stuff is going to get stuck." And for some reason as a kid that stuck with me. I'm like, I am Teflon. And part of that has carried forward to now. It's like, you just got to let things slide off you. So many of the things that I see people like failing at is worrying what people are going to think. I don't look a perfect way. I can't take pictures because I don't have a photographer. I can't put up content because it's not perfectly produced. I can't. And so this kind of stuff is you're just self-feeding all of this doubt. So what would it look like to say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and do this and I'm going to choose to learn from every moment what to do or what not to do or what to do better. And quite frankly, we just talked about it, right? I was worried that, hey, I was either going to be here in my office or in a closet at home because I've got kids running around. So it was like one of two options. I'm willing to make anything work. And I think everything is really one of those things where you have to look at it and kind of launch yourself into it. Otherwise, you're going to hesitate. You're not going to do it all out. If you're going to do something, be there, be present, and be willing to be successful and be willing to actually fail, learn from that failure, restructure that failure, and turn that into a learning experience. Doesn't mean that you're not going to make the same mistakes. I find myself making the same mistake over and over and over again. But I will always believe in people. I will always believe in partners. I will always choose to find the best, things about people. And I'm not going to let that stop me. I think a lot of people specifically, I'm pushing the later part of my 30s. And so there's a really big belief system that older people can't be relevant in the market. And I work with a lot of older entrepreneurs who worry about, well, we're not young and we're not in Bali and we don't have the right, pictures. And it's like, who cares? You have experience. So focus on what you're good at. I have always been resilient. And I think that Teflon mindset, that idea that cool, not everyone's going to like me. That's okay. Just being able to articulate that for a lot of people is hard. They want people to like them. Well, if you focus on everyone else that liked you, then you would be killing it. But you're focused on the 3 or 4% of people that find you to be obnoxious or whatever their thing is. So, okay, that's fine. I am obnoxious. It's cool. I'm going to lean into it. So I think you have to develop a level of comfort and kind of your own Teflon mindset, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I've heard the obnoxious thing just once or twice, and I'm like, sorry if I'm not boring.
I mean, I think the world is full of so many people that play it safe and do the expected things, and you just watch it and you go do you want to be the haystack or do you want to be the needle? I'd prefer to be the needle every time.
Oh, wow. That's powerful. That's a real expert authority insight right there. I don't think I've ever heard that before.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you. And you are definitely an example of blue vase mentality. Do you know what I mean by that?
No. Fill me in.
Oh, my gosh. You need to check out the book, The Go-Getter.
The Go-Getter. So Go-Giver. I've read The Go-Giver, I want to say.
This is The Go-Getter.
Okay.
And you exemplify every single thing in it, but you're going to love it. It's
awesome. I'll have to check that out for sure. I'm going to write that down. Cool.
I'll make sure it's in the show notes too. And
awesome.
The whole time you're talking, I'm just like, straight up, like I told you, whoever it was 8-10 minutes ago, I was like, just keep going. Like, I do have other questions in the show flow, but just you're on a roll.
Nah.
So it's obviously it's obvious to see where all this is stemming from, and it always starts with the leader, which is you. But I want to know more about the branding. Why branding? Out of anything you could choose in the world, why did you decide to build a company around that? How important is it for business?
I think that people don't recognize when you don't have a huge budget, all you really have is the brand. And people worry about a lot of ancillary things like what motivational quotes am I going to post on social media, or what videos am I going to have? And they can't say who they are and what they do, or what they say that they do doesn't resonate with a normal audience. So I specifically love what I do because I've worked with non-traditional companies that aren't necessarily sexy, like plumbing and HVAC, and construction, to like the fun companies like beer, wine, really big liquor brands. And I love both because they both need brand stories. And sometimes we're so focused on pushing out our narratives, right? We know what our goals are. We know what we need to hit lead gen wise. We don't take the time to really think about the consumer. And I'm not talking about how old they are and, did they go to college and do they have kids and I'm talking about where do they eat, where do they sleep, where do they shop? Are they Soul Cycle people or are they Planet Fitness type people, right? Are they yoga people and Soul Cycle people, or are they just like, give me a garage gym people? All of those factors really play into the brand. And so many people cannot articulate their brand story. And matter of fact, they figure out too late that they've invested dollars. And if they had just spent some time really thinking about who are we? And, one of my really dear friends, he's a brilliant, brilliant advisor to organizations. He always says, if your company could talk, what would it say? And I think when we start there, if what would your company say about you today? And that's David Corbin. He's a great guy. But he always talks about, if your company could talk, what would it say? And I think it's so brilliant because most people's companies would say, I need a name, I need a personality. I need, if we thought about it as a person, it would be a different conversation. And I think you see that as well, right? People can't articulate things. And so it all starts with that brand. And I look at it as the foundation of kind of the house, right? And so if you have a shaky foundation, anything you do on it, it's going to be okay. The walls could hold for a couple of years, but at some point there's a crack. It's going to sink. You're going to need to redo everything. So you might as well build it the right way, slowly, so that when you do put lots of dollar investment, it's not going to waste. That's the worst, right? People throw a bunch of money at something they really didn't think it through, and then they wonder why it's not resonating. Well, how is anyone else going to care if you don't care first?
I agree 100%. When I launched the show, people go, how do I get my first subscribers? I'm like, subscribe yourself. When, when I help my author clients launch their books and I launch my own, it's like, who's the first sale? If it's not you, you have a problem. And I love that you're talking about the brand story because, a lot of people don't develop their avatar. They don't know. They know what they do, but they don't know who they are. Mm-hmm. Tell me about your company. Oh, we help companies. And it's just like everyone else. I love that you're talking about the brand story. And I would have to say, even the people that come to me, at best, it's 20%, maybe have some idea, but upwards of 80% have no idea. And it's more of a, what's the new shiny object? What about this? What about that? And it's some little tactic. There's no strategy. They don't know who they are. They just know what they do. And they could very well be very good at it.
Yeah.
But what are like 3 things you could tell anyone in expert authority world if they want to develop their brand story? Where do you start people with?
I usually think it's easier to talk about first things first. I talk about food. So I always ask people to think about what is your favorite food? And when you talk to people about food, everyone's face lights up because everyone's got a favorite dish at their favorite restaurant. And then I walk them through that process. It's like, what's that feeling before you're going to the restaurant, getting exactly what you want? Like for me, obviously, it just depends on the day, but I love like a really, really good Polish sausage or a really good Chicago dog. Those are the things that I love. So if I know I've had a stressful day and I'm on my way, I'm excited. Why are you excited? Because you have this anticipation, you know what the experience is going to be like, right? So whatever those words are, people can talk about their favorite food. That's pretty much how you want people to talk about your brand, right? You want them to have that good anticipation and you want them to get exactly what they wanted. And that's why brand works. Okay. If I go to get a Chicago dog and they give me a tofu dog, I'm going to be so disappointed, right? That's awful. That's not what I want.
Are you allowed to say that? You're in Cali.
I know I should be gluten free and, but no, I love meat. That'll be the quote of the podcast, that I love meat. But, that's the easiest thing to start with. It's food. And then the second thing is to really think about, hey, if you are a retailer, right? Think of all the retailers out there. Like, what would your brand be? And what's so interesting about that is you get some people that really think about it and they go, well, maybe I'd be a Costco, or maybe I'm an Amazon. You can get whatever you want quickly within 2 days. For some people, they go, I'm Ferrari, like if you're working with high ticket people, I'm a Ferrari. You have to order, you have to be in advance.
Lambo.
Yeah. Whatever is your thing. Right. So that's usually an easy thing to have conversations about because sometimes people can overanalyze their brand. So my thing is start generic and then get more specific. So first things first, think about food, think about retailers, and then think about ideally kind of if you were particularly an item or an object, what would that object or item be? I always joke that I'm like a Leatherman tool because I have like 6 or 7 different uses. And so for some people, they'll go, oh, well, I'm this or I'm that. I'm a cell phone charger or I'm a mouse or whatever it is that you are. Once you start there, it gets you into a point of relaxing and really thinking through like, why would I be that? Why would I be that retailer? Oh, why do I get excited when I go get that particular food? Well, because you know what you're going to get. And that is kind of imprinted and branded. And once you can go into that reptilian part of your brain, right? And once you start thinking kind of non-logically, you're in that emotional part of your brain, you can really start firing on all cylinders. But a lot of times we try to be too cerebral about the process. And so we're overthinking it and we're over jargonizing. And it's so great to be 30,000 feet that you really have to dial it in and be 6 feet. And so the goal is, how do I go from 30,000 feet to 6 feet, then back up to 30,000 feet? And that's really the branding process in a nutshell, at least for me in my 3 areas of expertise.
Well, that does give a lot of insight because if you don't know where you're starting and if you don't know where you're going, you have no idea where to start and you don't even know if you're on the right track in between. I love the examples, especially the food one.
Yeah, but, I saw your face light up.
Yeah, when you said Ferrari, I was like, yeah, one of them too, but yellow and black Lambo.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
But I've used the same example. Nice, really? Not like I do this professionally. I've used the same similar examples also. Like I've always liked Oakley and Cadillac. And It's like, where do you position yourself? Not just who do you relate to and what do you want to be, but the positioning side of it is, that's what I took away from what you were saying is, where do you want to play? Are you entry level? Are you mid-tier? Are you the high end?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important to know that. So I'm glad to know you're doing it proper and helping so many people with it.
Yeah.
Who would you say is your biggest success story that you have helped?
I like to spotlight the big guys and the little guys, but I'll give you a specific example just in a retail brick and mortar, because I think retail brick and mortar is really important in our country. I was working with a bakery, which is pretty exciting because I like sweets, right? Selfishly, I'm like, I need to get some food clients, so let's work at the bakery. But one of the reasons I like to work with brick and mortar is you're never going to beat that experience of going with friends to go have a cup of coffee or, I always joke, we're all in a Starbucks alone together, right? So this idea of, food, mom and pop, second generation baker, this is my bread and butter because I can kind of walk into someone and say, I know what the revenue is. And so when I went into work with that business, what we realized is, we did an assessment of the neighborhood, and, this was a big investment for a small business owner to commit to, almost a 6-figure strategy for, 8 months is a huge deal. But what we did is we just did an assessment of what's around you, right? So really small things, city hall is down the street, police station is up the street, like there's a firehouse is here, like all of this stuff. And I said, we're going to make it really easy. We're going to have like, a first responder Friday. We're just going to get people to come in. We're going to bring high-end coffee because for whatever reason, there's no major chain that's nearby. This neighborhood is a little bit rougher. So no big chains have taken a chance to go in there. And the first words out of this person's mouth were, we're never going to be able to sell coffee for $4.75. And I said, you don't know until you try. So let's fail. And then you can tell me that I'm wrong. So literally the first 3 weeks, average dollar sale goes up to like $11, which in a bakery is huge because people are buying the fancy coffee. They're buying more pastries. Okay. So that dollar sale starts going up. To this day, 5 years later, she's doing 20% more per month in sales, which in a brick and mortar location has allowed her to hire more people, get deliveries. Now she's delivering to restaurants and hotels. Now she knows to market outside of her community. We partner with DoorDash and Grub. Like there's so much that you can do, but first you have to make the decision that I'm going to invest. And if I don't invest, I'm not going to be relevant. And if I'm not relevant, then no one will find me. And if no one can find me, I'm left out of the conversation. And that's where you start, because this is a fight for relevancy. So I don't care if you're the CEO of a big software company, which I've worked with. I don't care if you run a leadership organization, which I work with as well. What we look at is, how are you being relevant? Because if you're not being relevant, and, oh, my customers don't do this and they know I'm here, well, very quickly digitally, we can see, well, are you there? And very simply, we just ask, are you there? And do you like what you see? Because you could be there, but you may not like what you see. And so that's where we start. And I start with a digital footprint. Like, hey, like, can people find you? And if they can't, what do we need to do to set you up to be there in those moments? And what's right around you that you haven't even paid attention to? I'm sorry, as a bakery, you've got coffee, you've got donuts, right? And there's a police station. I feel like that's marketing 101 from like whatever year till now, from the beginning of time until now, right? And then you just keep adding. And again, don't let the fear of, well, what if it doesn't work? Okay, well, if it doesn't work, we learned that this neighborhood doesn't want it. What we learned is that not only did the company or the neighborhood around them want fancy coffee, they wanted the lattes, they wanted stuff. The market was there. It wasn't being met, right? And it continues to thrive because they're still the only ones in town. So, take it and run with it. Prove me wrong and then we'll try something else, right? I mean, so that's kind of the biggest story. And that's the biggest impact, right? Because I like working with the big boys, but I think anytime we can help out someone in the neighborhood where we always hear people talk about being upset that the neighborhoods are being gentrified. Guess what? We've got to take the time to educate these brick and mortars on, hey, you're going to have to invest because this is not free. Okay. But we just want you to be relevant and we believe you're relevant. Therefore you will be. It's pretty simple.
That is a great success story. And I don't mind the bakery either. And I think it's one of the funnest things when you're working with companies like that. And I have for a while, like,
yeah.
I'm not going to say how many, I don't want to date myself, but many hundreds of them. And the innovation part is so much fun because they're, well, what if this doesn't work? So what? But if it does, like you said, 5 years later, 20% bump.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's nothing to shake a stick at. That's huge.
It's really huge.
If you never try, you don't know. But correct me if I'm wrong, even if that didn't work, you would have kept going until you found something that did, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's about having, a plan A and, a B to D to E, whatever you've got to do. But if you're going to do plan A fully. And then once you've kind of decided that this isn't going to work, then you make a decision point. Perfect example, I work with a bunch of different attorneys organizations across the country and bar associations. And so, as you know, attorneys are the funnest people to work with when it comes to marketing, right? Because they know everything. So part of that was trying to figure out, how are we going to talk to these people? And one of the things that we struggle with in marketing is attribution, right? And so, I need my ROI. typically the conversation. And so I figured out really quickly, you're not going to spend like $1,500 to $2,000 and get that much back, right? You've got to figure out what are those touch points. And so I figured out I need to get them out of their cerebral part of their brain and into emotion. And so I just explained to people, here's ROI in marketing. Okay. And I'm going to explain it to you simply just the same way. My husband and I met on an app that swipes. Okay. Swipe right. We went to lunch. I decided he wasn't a psycho. I said, great, let's go to dinner. Then we went to dinner. And I said, okay, this is cool. I'm going to introduce you to my kids. So we met each other's kids. Then we met family. Then we met friends, proposal, wedding on a beach. Okay. Last click attribution in marketing would say that the reason I married my husband was because of that beautiful sign on the beach. Absolutely not why I married my husband. There are multiple touch points along the way. So I'm going to ask you, what was the most important part of that journey and that dating journey, date to marry journey?
Oh, this could be a trick because you could argue that it was the initial contact, but I would also kind of lean towards the you had lunch or coffee or whatever when you got what the point you said he's not a psycho.
Right. So there could be an argument for the not a psycho because that was the thing that led to the next thing. There could be an argument for downloading the app and filling out the profile. There could be an argument that, meeting children and friends and family. So what that tells you, if you're looking at that as an attribution across the spectrum, there's 3 to 5 plus more touch points along that way. So the same thing in marketing. There is not one part of that journey that is more important because you can have beautiful advertising, but if someone calls in, right, and someone terrible picks up the phone, you've just killed it. So every business has to figure out their 3 to 5 touch points. Some of them will be on the sales side and some of them will be on the marketing side. And so it's no longer sales versus marketing. It's this little cha-cha. And once you get those attribution points, and once you figure out these are my 3, then you can say, hey, you know what? First impression is really important for us, but so is the second and third, and actually the next to last. So we've got 4 touch points in the consumer journey. And then you allocate your budget against that, and then you can measure that. But it's never going to be just like a quick transaction. You've got to look at those touch points. And I explain it with the dating because it's fun and it sticks in your mind and you'll remember that. And that's the first things first is if you can remember different points of attribution and I can make it easy for you to understand the concept immediately. And I worked with attorneys on the East Coast, New York, Chicago, Texas, Miami, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland. These guys are super smart, but they get it. They go, okay, so I've got to invest in the first impression and the second and the third. And then I've got to make sure that the phone, the voice is good. So and then suddenly it doesn't become a matter of budget. It becomes like, okay, I need to be there along all those touch points. That's the easiest way.
What's the best experience you can give to your customer or client? Because you might be able to acquire them, close the sale, but I know a lot of people drop off at that point. They're like, oh, we got all, we want more leads. We want more sales. And other companies have plenty of leads and sales and they lose it at the 3, 6, 12, 2 year, 5 year down the road because I say it all the time. If someone is really good, I will do a live stream, check in, highlight the employee, whoever it is. But if they're not, I'm like, this person is useless.
Yeah.
I just work here. Why are you here? I'm asking you. You know why? Because I don't. Yeah. You do work here. I would think you would know more than me. If I can go to the app and figure it out quicker than you, don't complain when you're replaced.
Oh, my pet peeve in life is I travel typically, well, not right now, but I typically travel 3 to 4 days a week. And my most frustrating thing is going to order a sandwich where I have to do half the work, right? Like the joke is like, I'm paying you to make 100% of the sandwich. I would like you to make 100% of the sandwich. The same thing in business, right? How much are we asking people to do that we should be doing and owning? And it's not just obviously about acquiring the lead. It's keeping them happy, keeping them maintained. And what does maintenance look like? And are we communicating that along the way too? Because you can have great marketing, but ultimately it comes to you to execute, right? So that's
absolutely. And I don't know if I guess if I have a pet peeve, it might be the same because my background is in retail. I have worked in fast food. I have worked for one of the largest electronic stores that I've been on both sides of it. And when I have people on my team, it's like over deliver. If it cost us a little bit more, fine, but they're going to remember this. I strive for that excellence in over delivering in all that I do. And it's like, you can't even walk me to the aisle. There's 48. You just changed the store around and they're like, it's over there.
Yeah. Well, and I think that to me, like I remember I was like 18, my first big job was in banking. And they taught us a lot of stuff around remembering people's names and providing great service and all this other stuff. Ironically, like 20 years later, right? Like I still see, if I see somebody, I still remember their name. And this happened the other day. My husband was like, how in the world did you remember that guy's name? And I said, we had a relationship. And the guy used to come in with his kids and he was with his kids and everybody remembered me in the family. That's a great experience. And you know what that goes to? That goes to longevity of process. I've always treated people well. I always build business on a relationship. I try to really take the time to understand what matters to everybody. And that's really ultimately what gets and keeps a sale, right? I mean, that's it.
Yeah, I love that you use when you said last click attribution for the sign on the beach for the wedding, I was like, all right, that's funny. Because a lot of people don't, marketing's marketing and this is personal life. And it's like everything has a process to it.
Well, yeah. And I think, again, if you can take that 30,000 view of attribution and make it 6 foot for someone and really say like, okay, now that you've heard this, map out your touch points. If I ask people about marketing attribution before I tell that story, no one can map out their touch points. And I've done this in rooms of like 1,500, 2,000 people. No one raises their hand. No one can do it. Once I tell that story, then I ask again, everyone can raise their hand. So again, it's again, we overthink certain things, but once we make it easy for someone to understand and digestible, then they can do it.
You were breaking it down so simplistic. I love it. I got 2 questions. One of them I'm throwing in here because, well, why not? But the other one has to do with who would you love to have dinner with that, like maybe an entrepreneur, maybe not. Who is just someone you'd love to have dinner with that?
Oh, I've got a controversial one for sure. And it's super controversial and it's probably going to be scandalous, but I'm going to go with it. So I don't know if you know Brad Parscale, digital media marketing manager for Trump. He was actually like the first.
Oh, I did read a story on him for what he did with Facebook.
Yeah, for what he did with Facebook, but just in general, like he was the first kind of non-political person to really be in marketing of a political candidate. And I don't care where you align politically. And this is what I love about marketers. We can appreciate process and mindset and like the data and the strategy. Like that to me would be the most interesting thing that I could look at, because ultimately, if we looked at, regardless of that, like, what is that? Like, how do you enter an arena where you're not necessarily versed in that arena and just kill it, right? And again, understanding behavior. I think that's 100% a consumer behavior play, but I'm always fascinated by people. I think there's a really great book called Willful Blindness, and it really touches on how we ignore the obvious at our own peril. And our goal is to learn from people that maybe we like or maybe that we're not aligned with. And too many times I see people only learning from one side of the tree. You've got to learn from everybody. And then you've got to figure out, okay, how do I want to use that in what I'm trying to create? But if you're only in the same kind of Kool-Aid, if you're all only drinking the same kind of Kool-Aid, you're only going to see things one way. And I think perspective is something that, respectfully, in marketing, we can all learn from each other. We learn what we like, what we don't like. Maybe we can apply something differently. Maybe we can use it for the other side of the coin or whatever, but that's who I picked. Super scandalous, I know.
It's actually less than I thought. I mean, that's it's actually a very good one. And I know who you're talking about because I love looking up information also, because ultimately we're in the information age. It's not the industrial solely anymore. Yeah. And there's so much data at our fingertips. Mm-hmm. It actually leads me into the one I'm throwing in just because you're of your background.
Yeah.
Why don't you think the FBI, CIA, and all these organizations don't hit us up more that have marketing experience and knowledge? Because a lot of what we do when people are like, oh, stalk me on Facebook, and everyone jokes, it's intelligence gathering.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what's really the most interesting thing about what we do in general is that I was joking with a bunch of friends in marketing. I said, well, good thing we're all at home right now because we're all communicating via trackable information. So if we wanted to understand a global sentiment analysis, it would be really easy to see our, depending on what the end game here is, right? There's all these devices we've put into our homes. Everything's connecting. it's like, yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm sure that they are, right? Like the joke is someone's always listening, right? I don't even have a Google Home or an Alexa in my house for that reason, but it's interesting to see. We have information. I think people are starting to pay attention because it went from this fun thing, marketing is fun, to like, wow, marketing can really do a lot of things that no one had anticipated. And I'm encouraging people right now, we're all looking at the news and people are freaking out because of whatever. And I said, remember this, an algorithm is only geared to give you more of what you want. So if you stop searching and you start thinking differently, and if you think about this from a marketing perspective, obviously our goal is to get you to click on something. So if you look at all the media and stuff, people are clicking. What's that telling an advertiser? Oh my gosh, I got 1 million impressions or 2 million impressions. I got to double down on my marketing. So, again.
But are they the right impressions?
Exactly.
Because you could have 10 million and it's the wrong thing, or maybe it's just because it's a fad or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is it's like, I don't need 10 million eyeballs on the things that I do. Some people feel that strategy works for them, but it's also about telling people, hey, if you're listening to Pandora, and I like country music, I like hip hop, and I like jazz. If I'm listening to jazz, I'm never going to get asked, do you want to listen to country? Do you want to listen to 80s hip hop? It's not going to happen. I have to self-select. So I think people shouldn't be wowed by impressions. You should be wowed by the engagement. You should be wowed with, am I getting the right people? Am I getting the right message? And this is the perfect time to hunker down and learn. I mean, searches for personal and business growth development are up over 2,000% in the last 18 hours. So that's a huge thing to look at when we're doing studies is what's the sentiment right now? Like, what can I look up? What's the data I can pull? And once you figure that out and see what people are looking for, that's the biggest thing that you can do, right? What are people thinking about? And how can I find myself in that conversation in a way that makes sense? In a way that makes sense, by the way. Not just
there's so much data out there and it's great. And I love it also because, the audio you can turn into transcripts, the video you can turn into transcripts,
Sure.
The text, the images, everything is so digital now. There's been times, and it's kind of weird, I'm like, I need to do more in real life because there's some conversations, and I love doing stuff in real life with people and speaking to audiences, but I've had some really killer conversations and I'm like, dang it, we're not going to have a transcript of that or a recording.
Yeah.
Because it's so fun. I personally think it's so fun to go back and be like, hey, let me look at this right now in this moment. Every single episode of the show, I edit the audio. So when I filmed it like this and I go back to edit the audio, I'm listening totally different because right now I have a lot of things on my mind that, is it going? Is this going on? But when I listen, I'm like listening. And then I even listen to I'm just listening to learn. And those are 3 different mindsets you have. I love having the recording of that. However, it would be weird if every time you talk to someone, you were like, all right, camera's on, we're recording this, and it's being live streamed.
Well, I think there's an element of, active listening that we have to really try. It's so hard to be present in the moment because our minds are everywhere, right? Like, you're listening, but then you want to look good. Am I smiling? Am I paying attention? Do I have a good face? Am I engaged or not? I think part of it is figuring out the time when you're really going to be an active listener. I choose to set aside about 6 hours a week of just learning. And that's my time. That's calendar time that I put on. I include my kids sometimes in it. I think public speaking is a skill that all of us have to use. And so that's a learning time. And I don't meet enough people that schedule intentional time to learn. And this idea that you know everything, it's like, no, you don't. You could learn how to close better. You could learn to have a better executive presence. You could learn a better pitch. You could learn a better brand story. All of this stuff really just means that we have to commit to picking times to be active and listening. The devices that we have are fantastic, but sometimes I feel like they use us and not the other way around. So that's my opportunity to turn off all my notifications and go on D&D and really get to do something for me and be an active listener. So that's what I love.
I love that you're saying that, and I feel the same way. As much as I don't mind any of this, I also love taking off the smartwatch, the phone, everything, throwing it on the charger, going on the boat, going for a swim, being like, no one can find me. And if I don't post anything, no one knows where I'm at.
Yeah, exactly. And isn't
Unless
that
you're on the
kind of
boat with
fun?
me, which
I mean,
certain people should be, and no one else will ever get the opportunity.
well, I think that's great though. I think sometimes it's okay to be an island. Sometimes it's okay to be selfish. I think we're so
Oh,
used to
I wouldn't say
over-communicating.
it's even selfish. Like you said, you
Yeah,
should be scheduling it, because if you don't take
yeah,
care of yourself, you're going to be useless. You're going to be just as useless as half the
yeah,
employees for everyone else.
yeah. But I mean, I think we also have to redefine what selfish means. If you look at the actual dictionary version of it, it's not actually a bad thing. It's just, sometimes you have to put yourself before others. But isn't that what they tell us to do when we get on an airplane? Put on our mask, take care of ourselves before we take
Agreed.
care of anybody else. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Love that. Love what you're sharing. We're going to thank our sponsor and come back for the imperfect action round.
Invest automatically, save for later, and spend today. That's why I love Acorns. I used to think spare change didn't make a difference and saving and investing was an old-fashioned manual process. It's not. And it's a game changer. If you're not leveraging compounding interest in your business and life, automatically you're missing out. Acorns not only makes saving and investing easy and automatic, it makes it even more valuable by investing with diversified portfolios, spare change, extra cash, and rounding up everyday transactions. You can even set recurring monthly investments in the amount you desire. To make good great, there is also a debit card option that will continue to help you save and invest even further when you spend. Plus, no minimum balance and overdraft fees. Now, for the cherry on top. They have partnered with 250 plus companies and brands, and growing, with their Found Money program to invest back a percentage into your account with the everyday purchases when you shop. 2 of which you're probably listening to this right now through an Amazon or Apple device. Get started profiting from your everyday life and business simply and easily today at eainterviews.com/acorns. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/acorns.
And we are back with the imperfect action round. Maresa, are you ready to take imperfect action?
Always.
I had a feeling you'd be up for this. First question, 60-second rapid-fire answers. What is the fastest path to the cash?
Talking about yourself incessantly. Awareness brings attention, which brings money.
All right. Number 2, what is the biggest problem you see your prospects making and the fastest way they can fix it?
Hiring low-cost resources that become a single point of failure. So instead of thinking about one person run resource, think about how could you have a team do the same thing for the same cost.
I'm going to have you expand on that. That's very intriguing to me.
So most businesses will hire a part-time junior marketing coordinator. That's typically the title that we see in California. That average hire will be somewhere between $1,600 to $2,100 a month. You could hire a small boutique agency, a team of 4 to 5 people for that one cost of a hire. So if you're looking at it just dollar for dollar, be smarter with that dollar amount. Look for a smaller boutique agency or someone that can help you, and you'll get 5 people helping you instead of 1. That way, if one of them is sick, your business and your marketing still continues. You hire that one person, they get sick, your marketing stops.
That's solid gold right there. Love that. Number 3, what is the best way to maximize customer lifetime value?
I think it's about making intentional dialogues and reaching out to your customers all the time, not just when you want something for them. I think proactive communication is something that I don't often see. And oftentimes it's not just an email, but is a phone call or a text message, just letting someone know that you're available. You'd love to talk. You'd love to chat, do a virtual coffee. Most of us are programmed to put people on just nurture campaigns, but people are always pleasantly surprised with a phone call. So I say set up a channel, stalk the clients online, on LinkedIn. You see something cool happen, call them and let them know that you saw it. They're going to love that, and it's going to make you look like a rock star in their eyes.
That is a great tip, and too many people don't utilize it.
Yeah. We get a lot of messages every day. How many of us get email all day long? So just to have someone kind of pattern interrupt your day and say, hey, I noticed you got promoted to this role. I'm super excited for you. Good luck. Congratulations. But it's a total pattern interrupt. They're not going to expect it. And it's going to make you seem, again, like a rock star, and it's going to differentiate you from the pack.
I love that. One of my favorite things to do is video messages, whether it's through a social media, through text, whatever. There's even email softwares to do it. You know, just bridging that gap with that personal connection like you're talking about. People are inundated with social, and that was a great tip. I'm going to make sure that's highlighted because a lot of people just, Oh, I got my email campaign. Oh my God. Okay, whatever. We're in agreement. I'll leave it at that. What are some books you could recommend to Expert Authority World that have made an impact on your business and life?
Huge books. The Birth of a Brand by Brian Smith. He's the founder of UGG. He's a friend and neighbor, and he's got some great stories. So when we think about failure, what if you had only sold $500 worth of product your first year in business and had stopped? So he's got a great brand story there. And again, it's great around storytelling. Another fantastic book is 3 Feet from Gold. That's by Sharon Lechter and Greg Reed. I have the pleasure of knowing both of those people. And it's really interesting. It's like oftentimes we start right before, or we stop right before something amazing is going to happen. And then what ends up happening is we go, oh, it didn't work, and someone else swoops in. So they're really good mindset stories, and I appreciate that. And then the third most important book that I've read is called The Respectful Leader. So it's really about understanding what it means to be respectful to other people that you're working with and around for, because a lot of times, again, we often approach people in the way that we want information, or we don't even consider how they receive information. So being respectful as you scale, I find is one of the key differentiators in keeping staff, maintaining staff, and keeping a good company culture. The last thing you want is a toxic culture as you're building your brand or your business. Those are my top 3.
Huge Expert Authority insights, and I have thoroughly enjoyed this. I have no doubt we could do a half-day training, and maybe we will in the future. Thank you so much, Maresa.
Thank you so much.
All right, Expert Authority World, we have another killer episode here today. I'm excited to share with you tomorrow. Have a great day, and God bless.
Why every business needs a book, including yours. Would you like to save 5+ hours with every prospect, generate more leads, and profit in your business now? Visit businessbookchecklist.com and learn how you can implement this in your business today. Spare change? How's that going to make a difference? I know that's what I thought before I started investing with Acorns. Throwing change in a jar is not very leverage and time-consuming, but what about all the transactions you don't use cash for? Like majority? Acorns not only invest your spare change automatically with roundups, it also lets you add a preset amount to each transaction regardless. It's pretty inspiring to see how quickly and easily you can end up with a pile of cash instead of a pile of receipts. Get started simply and easily today at eainterviews.com/acorns. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/acorns. Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you got a lot out of it. I know I sure did. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to subscribe to the show. And also be sure to check out eainterviews.com for complete show notes, the full interview video experience, links to the resources we mentioned, and more. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you tomorrow.